We are on the record in case number 2022-00344, electronic investigation of Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District and its individual commissioners, James Hall, Jerry Hawes, Thomas Bill, and Clay Corman for the alleged violation of KRS 278-300. My name is Kent Chandler. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me, and I'll be presiding over the hearing today, joining me is Vice Chair Angie Hatton. Commissioner Mary Pat Regan is unable to meeting today, but will subsequently review the record and render a decision in this matter. If you have cell phones, that you please turn them to silent or turn them off. The purpose of today's hearing is to take evidence in this matter. Before we start in earnest, I'd first like to ask for an entry of appearance of counsel. So first for the utility.
I'm Bruce Smith for Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And for commission staff.
Good morning, Your Honor. Justin Young and Jennifer Fell.
Okay. I reviewed the record this morning, and it appears that public notice was provided yesterday, or evidence of public notice was provided yesterday for a newspaper run of June the 29th. Is that right, Mr. Smith?
It's correct, sir, and I have the actual newspaper if you'd like it.
That'd be perfect. Do you mind provide it to our reporter? Thank you. All right, and I've reviewed the record and don't find any pending motions. Are there any motions?
No, Your Honor.
Any petitions? Okay, all right. Mr. Smith, I can cut a lot of this down if you can confirm that everybody behind you is with the district.
They are.
Okay, all right, because I know these two people over here, so there's nobody here from the public in order to provide public comment. As of 8:30, there was nobody that indicated their interest in following the instructions on our website. The information was, of course, included on the public notice to provide public comments remotely or virtually. Anybody that's watching this hearing live or prior to submission of the case can provide public comments in one of three ways. They can either mail them to the Public Service Commission at 211 Sower, S-O-W-E-R Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602. They can mail them or email them to the Public Service Commission at psc.comment@ky.gov, or they can provide those comments through the portal on our website, psc.ky.gov. Just ask that anybody that files public comments that you provide your name, your address, and the case number, which a reminder, this case number is 2022-00344. Given that there's no one here present that would like to provide public comments, I guess council, I know that you have, it's my understanding you have 4 or 5 individuals with you, I think 5 individuals with you prepared to take the stand. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, and those are witnesses Miller, Hall, Hawes, Beal, and Corman, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay, all right. And given that we'll take all 5 at whatever point, what we'll do this morning, I don't know if you've had a hearing here before. Okay, so what we'll do this morning is we'll just have you call whichever one, however you want them in whatever order, as long as we get through all 5. Give you an opportunity to introduce the witness. After I swear them in, you can introduce them, name, title, or
Certainly.
duties. If you would like, if you think it's helpful for the commission's consideration, given the subject matter of the case, to conduct any initial direct examination, ask them a couple of questions to clarify things, or give them an opportunity to say whatever they like, that's fine. You'll have an opportunity to do so on redirect as well. Then you'll tender them for staff's cross-examination. If the commissioners have any questions, we'll ask, and then we'll give you an opportunity to ask redirect of the individual witnesses.
Understood.
Okay. All right, counsel, would you have to call your first witness?
Sure. I'd like to call Mr. J.F. Hall.
Stand up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right. Please state your name and address for the record.
James Frank Hall, 2352 Taylor Ridge Road, Nicholasville, Kentucky,
Okay.
4356.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Hall, what states your elected position with the Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District, please?
I'm the chairman.
Okay. Are there any corrections or additions that you wish to add to the request for information filed with the commission for which you're responsible?
I guess one of the only things I would have to say is I've been chairman for about a year and a half now.
Okay. Prior to that, you were a member, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll tend to the witness.
Counsel?
Good morning, Mr. Hall. My name is Justin Young. I'm the staff attorney, like we said earlier. If during my questions you have a hard time hearing me, or you need to ask me for more detail, please do so. Can you hear me all right?
Not real good.
I can try to speak up and I can bring the microphone a little closer. Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I know that box makes things a little tricky. So is it standard practice for the board to keep minutes of every meeting?
Can you repeat that, please?
I can. So when the Jessamine-South Elkhorn District, when you all meet for your board meetings, do you guys typically keep minutes for each one?
Yes.
Okay. Who's responsible for drafting and keeping those minutes?
Kim drafts the minutes.
Okay. Is Kim at each meeting? Does she draft them as they
Yes,
go?
yes, sir.
Thank you. Does the board approve the minutes?
Yes, sir.
What's the process for approving those minutes?
We do our old business, new business, for the water district and the sewer district, and then at that point, we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Okay. If there was a loan or any other type of evidence of indebtedness being approved, is there any reason that wouldn't make it into the meeting minutes?
I wouldn't think so.
And there's no like typical or standard reason it would
Right.
happen, okay. So in one of the response to commission staff's report, and I can draw your attention to it if you'd like me to, it was indicated that there were no minutes regarding a meeting that approved the extension of the 2 central bank loans. Is that familiar to you?
To be honest with you, I don't remember.
Okay, I can bring it over to you. So in response to the commission staff, first data requests, if that's the page he will need. Chairman, Commissioner, would you all like copies?
No,
It's in
that's
the
fine.
record.
You go ahead.
I would like one if it's handy.
And we're looking specifically at response 20 and 21.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have an extra.
And the question there basically just says for the central bank loan 943 and 958, those extensions, it asked if there were any minutes relating to those, and none, and the answer simply states that there are none. Do you have any idea why there might not have been minutes for that? If you need a minute to review that, that's fine, sorry.
No,
I jumped
sir,
right
I don't.
in. No, do you recall the meeting where that was extended back in 2019? I think it was in September. Well, let me restate. The documents, the extensions were executed on, I think, September 29th of 2019. So I'm not sure when the meeting would have been, but do you recall a meeting discussing extending those?
I do not.
Okay. So on that first data request, response 6, it indicates that you voted for approval of the KIA loan F07-02. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Response 7, same thing for KIA loan F11-12. Did you vote to approve that one as well?
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing on staff, response to question 8. This is the central bank loan number 943. It appears you voted in the affirmative to approve that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Referring to the response 9, that central bank loan 958, did you vote to approve that one as well?
Yes.
Thank you. In the third response to staff's third request for information, the question referred to, and I can provide this one to you as well if you would like, it basically was asking what the procedure is for seeking legal counsel in regards to these loans. And it said that at the time, I'm paraphrasing, so if you need to see it or you want a copy, please let me know. Basically, the procedure was that if legal counsel was needed, that legal counsel would speak up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did the board talk amongst itself about if commission approval was needed during any of those meetings for these loans that you recall?
Not that I recall.
And counsel didn't speak up, is that correct?
Can you repeat that, please?
And did counsel speak up to provide any information?
Not that I recall.
Thank you. When was the last time you attended any Public Service Commission approved water commissioner training?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you say training?
Yeah, training, commissioner
A
training.
year ago.
1 year ago?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you aware of any outstanding bonds that have been issued by Jessamine-South Elkhorn?
No.
No further questions, Chairman.
Vice Chair.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Fairly well, not the
I'll
best.
try to speak up as much as possible.
Okay.
And please let me know if you can't hear my question. Let me get this microphone closer to it. Is that a little better?
A little bit.
Okay. Have you completed all the training that was required of you to be a water district
Yes,
commissioner?
ma'am. I go to the training once a year, that when we're notified that we need to go, we schedule there's like 5 or 6 different trainings, and we'll schedule to do one of those. We do that every year as required. I think it's 6 credit hours a year for commissioners.
Are yours online or in person?
Mine have all been, other than during the COVID time, it was all in person.
How many years have you served on the commission? I know it was a year and a half as chair.
Since 2006.
Okay, so that's quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And you've served on the commission since 2006?
Mm-hmm.
And in all that time, have you had other loans that you sought approval from PSC?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And did you think this one was different for some reason?
Well,
Or these 4 and extensions?
to be honest with you, I just thought everything was done on these the same way that they were supposed to have been done.
Do you recall talking about getting loans approved in those,
Getting
Those
loans
trainings.
approved, some of those loans?
in the trainings? Did they talk about how that was necessary?
No, honestly, I don't think, I can't remember when I've been to one that talked about Public Service Commission, the loan part of being a commissioner.
You can't remember that ever being in your trainings?
No.
So,
I'm not saying it hadn't been, but, 2006 is a long time.
right. I mean, if mistakes are made, I mean, as a lawyer, I've made mistakes. As a public official, I'm sure I made mistakes. But as a parent, there's no sense in yelling at my kids for a mistake they made. The best thing we could do, I think, is to figure out how it happened and how to
Right.
prevent it from happening in the future. So, do you think there's ways we could have improved the training or require more training, or how could this have been prevented?
Well, I guess more training would always help maybe. Again, as far as myself, I think as a commissioner, it just kind of falls on me to be, I guess, more responsible to make sure that we're getting everything done exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
But you don't recall it being specifically mentioned in your trainings?
No, ma'am.
That's all the questions I have.
Which training did you attend? A training put on by the commission or a training put on by someone else?
Our training was put on, the ones that I typically go to, or that I've gone to every year, is in Bowling Green around February. That's the one, I haven't gone yet this year, but that's when I always go. It's put on by the Public Service Commission.
So you've been a commissioner for,
Since 2006,
so 18 years?
Yes.
17 years. You attend training every year.
sir?
You attend training every year? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? Okay. You've approved loans in the past, is that
Mhm.
right?
Yes, sir.
So you knew there was a requirement to approve loans?
Yes.
Okay. And so when this came up, you said you thought everything was in order, but you knew, let me ask the question. You knew that you've approved that you've sought commission approval for loans in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no discussion, it sounds like, about seeking commission approval for these 4 loans. So why not speak up? Why not say something?
Well, to be honest with you, I thought that those loans had already, are you talking about refinancing them or
Well,
make?
there's 4 here. 2 are originals, and then 2 are originals and then refinancing, I think. So we've got a number of loans here. KIA loans and central bank loans
Yes.
over a number of years, 2008, 2013, 2014, 2019. So that's why I'm trying to figure out, it's not just a one-time situation. This is 4 times over the 17 years that you've been there. If you knew that you were supposed to seek PSC approval and that wasn't discussed in the voting on it, why wouldn't you have mentioned it?
It was a mistake I made, I guess.
Well, no, but I'm trying to understand that you all have these meetings.
Mhm.
Somebody's bringing to you all, I assume, these loans. Now, to staff's question, I
Right.
think some of the minutes don't even include discussions about changing the loans. So
The
we
loan-
don't know what the discussion was, but minutes are helpful to figure out what happened, right? Like big picture, what the votes were. I'm trying to ask, as the meetings progress, what's your all's level of involvement and questioning of what's being presented to you all?
I guess I just took for granted from the chairman and from council that everything had been approved.
Okay. But you're the chairman now
I'm the chairman now.
and have been since 2021.
That's been since 2022.
Okay, so since 2022, well, now that you're in the, now that you're in that seat, what are you doing to make sure that the other commissioners can depend on you and council to make sure that everything's in line? Like, what has changed in terms of your role on the board in relation to compliance issues like that?
Well, until this come along, I didn't realize that something needed to be changed. And that's one thing that Kim and I have talked about, that when these new loans come up for refinance, or not new loans, but the old loans come up for refinancing, that we have to make sure and get approval from Public Service Commission. Because I think we just had one come up in 2019 that was refinanced. That we just found out now that those have to be approved by you all too.
Well, refinancing, is just a term that's being used, but refinancing is taking out a new loan to pay an old loan, right?
Right.
Okay. Do you know how long the loan has to be to not seek commission approval?
No, I don't.
Do you know approximately how much in loans you all have? Hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars?
Well, we've got millions. I don't know it right offhand.
That's fine. I'm looking at your, first let me ask just foundationally here. Who is Richard Decker?
He is our manager, supervisor, that supervises and manages the office and also does field work with our contractors.
Okay. Do you all approve the annual report, the annual financial report that gets filed here at the PSC?
Yes.
Do you all look at that and review it and then approve him to file it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you all review and approve the audit report that you all receive each year prior
Yes, sir.
to it being filed with us? Okay. would you be surprised if in your annual report for 2021, it notes that you have $0 of loans?
I think when that was, I don't know.
So I'm looking at your 2021 annual report, it's on
Right.
our website, page 21 of 44, and the page is entitled Notes Payable, okay? And it has no loans. So if you look at your annual report here, it goes along with our record of you all seeking commission approval for loans. Looking at your annual report every year, it would appear that we hadn't approved any loans for you and you have no loans. But in your audit report, it clearly lists that you have the loans. So why would you have the loans that you file where the auditor signs their names, but not the financial annual report that you all file with us every year?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't,
Well, where can I get an answer to it? Does it seem odd to you that the utility neither sought approval for the loans and in their financial report that they filed with the commission didn't disclose that they had any, that you all had any loans?
I don't know how that would have happened other than there was a mistake made.
Well, but I've actually gone back a number of years, and it appears that I'll just pull up 2019 here real quick. Jessamine-South Elkhorn. Notes payable page, 21 of 44, no loans. But we know in 2019 you all had loans because that's when you refinanced those two at Central Bank, right?
Right.
So you all filed a report with us on March 16th, 2020 that had no loans, even though in September of 2019 you all modified the two Central Bank loans. Is that right?
Yes, we did modify them, yes.
Okay. And you said the board reviews and approves the audit report before it gets filed with us and the annual report that gets filed with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hall. You may have
Thank
a
you.
seat. Thanks. Mr. Smith, would you like to call your next witness?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Tom Bell,
Okay,
sorry.
that's fine. Just want to make sure we depend on the audio recording for our official record, so I just want to make sure the microphone's picked up. Please raise your right hand. You can sit.
Just a minute. I have a hearing impairment that's not curable.
Okay.
I read lips.
Okay.
Much better, may I?
Well, no, we've got to have it there because the
Okay.
microphone has to pick up all of your responses. I promise you, at least with me, I can't speak for council. You'll be able to hear me.
Okay.
That won't be a problem. Never in my life has anybody ever said they have a problem hearing me.
You go for it.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
To the best of my ability, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Smith? Oh, I'm sorry. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thomas Bell, 5800 Sugar Creek Pike, Nicholasville, Kentucky, 40356.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Bell, are you a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District?
Yes, sir.
And have you served in that capacity since late 2012?
I think it was like December. My first board meeting, I think, was 2013.
Okay. Were you the respondent in any of the information requests made by the commission in this proceeding?
Are you asking, did they ask me to come here?
No, I'm asking, did you sign your name to any of the questions they asked in the proceeding?
I assume I did.
Your name doesn't appear anywhere.
Repeat that, please.
The request for information, did you sign any request for
Oh,
information?
yes, I did.
Just let the record reflect that Mr. Bell's mistaken about that. He didn't sign any requests. I'll tender the witness. He's going to ask you questions.
Counsel?
Good morning, Mr. Bell. My name is Justin Young. I keep repeating that. I've just got a few questions for you this morning. Can you hear me all right, or can you understand me?
Yes, right now, I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, I'll try to keep my voice up. If it drops or you can't hear me, please let me know. Earlier, I asked the current chairman of the Jessamine-South Elkhorn District about the two central bank loans, 943 and 958, and the extension of them back in September 29th, 2019. Do you recall those loans being extended?
No, sir, I don't.
You don't recall any meetings about it at all?
I'm sorry. May I approach him?
No, you cannot.
I can try to
Speak
speak.
slow down.
Slow down.
That would help a lot.
Thank you. So, do you recall any meetings regarding the central bank loan 943 and 958, those extensions?
Do I recall a meeting?
Yeah, yes,
Not specifically.
okay. There are 4 loans that are at question in this particular proceeding. Did you vote to approve the KIA loan F11-12? Do you recall?
I assume I did. If it's in the minutes, then I did in fact do it.
Okay. In response to data request or staff's request for information 1, the response 7 from Jessamine-South Elkhorn indicated that you did. Is there any reason that'd be incorrect?
I'm sorry, I missed
I
that.
probably went too fast again. That's all right. In the data responses, it indicates that you did approve that loan. Is there any reason that'd be incorrect?
No, not to my knowledge. If it's in the minutes,
Thank you. Regarding Central Bank Loan 943, the data response also indicates you approved that one. Is that correct, or do you recall?
I don't recall it, but again, if it's in the minutes, then yes, I did.
Thank you. Same question regarding Central Bank Loan 958. It indicates you approved that. Is that correct, or do you recall?
Again, if it's in the minutes, I did.
Do you know the last time you attended any water commissioner training?
It was probably, I'm thinking maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Commissioner, or Chairman, I apologize.
Question?
No.
Just to be clear, you've been on the board for for more than 10 years now, right?
I came on in basically 2013.
Okay. And do you attend training every year?
I'm sure I did, yes.
Okay. Do you remember where the training was or who conducted the training?
No, I know him by sight, but not by name.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Where was the training held?
It was in northern Kentucky.
Okay, at the water district.
Yes, sir.
Did the water district host it?
Yes, sir, the water
Okay.
district office.
Okay. So that was this past year that you went to Northern Kentucky?
Well, would you repeat?
So in 2022, you went to Northern Kentucky to do that training?
Yes, well, it might have been 2023, like I say, you know, but it's been recently.
Okay, so I'll ask it this way. So we conduct our own training 4 times a year. At least 3 times a year, but usually 4 times a year. We do a training here at the commission in December. We do a training in the middle of the year down at Lake Barkley or Kentucky Lake. We do another up at Jenny Wiley State Park in Eastern Kentucky.
Not-
Have you ever attended any of those?
Never attended those.
Okay. And then we have to approve other people to do training. So we consistently approve Stoll, Keenan, Ogden, the law firm in Lexington.
That's who conducted the
Okay.
one I went
And
to.
it's usually either Jerry Woocher or Damon Talley talk about the legal part. They're very different. You would know the difference between them, but that's okay.
No, sir.
So, but they've done trainings in northern Kentucky,
Yes, sir.
in Oldham County, up in LaGrange, outside of Louisville.
LaGrange's, I think, is the one I went to.
Okay. And then they've done trainings in Bowling Green and in, I think, maybe Hardin County in Elizabethtown.
don't think so.
Do any of those sound familiar?
I mean, I went to several, and they haven't been in LaGrange all the time. Matter of fact, I think that's the first time I went to LaGrange.
I think that's the first time they've had one in
Oh,
LaGrange.
okay. The rest of them were in other places.
Okay, all right. Have you ever been to the one here at the Public Service Commission?
Been here?
Mm-hmm.
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay. And you go every year?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Did you know at any time that you all had to, the board, the utility, had to seek commission approval for loans?
I found out, yes, we do.
Well, I know you found out after, I know this was an education. How about before this case was opened? Did you know that you all were under an obligation to seek commission approval to get a loan?
Yes, sir, I think so, it was.
Okay. And you knew you all had loans, right? You voted on them in the past. Let me ask you this way. You knew you all had loans.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As I asked Mr. Hall, do you review the annual report and the audit report each year before it's filed with the commission?
I've looked over them.
Okay.
I mean, but I'm not an accountant, so I don't know that I can understand all of it.
All right, Mr. Smith?
Mr. Bell, was it, when these loans were taken out, was it your intent to hide that fact from the Public Service Commission?
No, sir. I mean, basically, we have you as the legal counsel, we have John Horn on the mechanical part of it. And so we sort of lean on both of you guys because I'm not as familiar with the law as you are, and I know very little about engineering, any kind of water and stuff. So if you said we should, we did.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. That's all.
All right, thank you very much. You may have a seat.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
All right, please have a seat and state your name and address for the record.
Jerry Hawes, 940 Pekin Pike, Wilmore, Kentucky, 40390.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Hawes, are you a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District?
Yes,
Have you served as a commissioner since 1992?
yes, sir. I was off for a couple of years and came back on.
Right. I'll tender the witness.
Counsel?
Thank you. Mr. Halls, just like I've told everyone else, if you have a hard time hearing me or if my question isn't clear, please let me know.
I will.
Thank you. You've heard me ask several times to the other witnesses about the extensions of central bank loans 943 and 958, do you recall?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember any meetings or discussions about extending those loans?
I've had so many of those, that it all runs together. I can't get specific.
I understand, thank you. Referring to the KIA loan F07-02, did you vote to approve that?
If the minutes say I did, I did.
Data response number 6 to staff's first request for information, it indicates that you did approve that. That you did vote in the affirmative for that?
I would have voted to approve, yes.
Okay, thank you. Same question for Central Bank Loan 943. Do you recall approving that, or is there any reason that the data response would be incorrect regarding your approval?
I assume I did vote for it.
Once again, same question for Central Bank Loan 958. Data response, or response 9 to staff's first data request indicates you did vote to approve it. Do you recall that, or is there any reason that data response would be
I
incorrect?
have no reason to doubt that.
Thank you. And when was the last time you attended any Public Service Commission approved water commissioner training?
Many times,
Many times?
many times.
Um,
I've been in Frankfurt, I've been to northern Kentucky. Last year we did it on a live stream. I've even done it in Frankfurt.
Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Question?
Good morning, can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me okay? Yes, the answer is no. Can you hear me
Yes.
okay? Is that better? You can hear me now?
I can hear you,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
sorry about that. I imagine if you've served since 1992, that you have approved several loans over that period of time for the Water District.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think went wrong in these 4 instances? Why did that not happen?
I don't know. I was upset to hear when he said that our annual report did not match. I assumed all along that the reports we were filing were correct.
So I know there's no requirement for a law degree or that you be an accountant or an engineer to serve on the Water District, but the training should inform you guys that you're required to hire competent professionals to help you in situations like this, and that you have a responsibility to make sure that things are accurate before you approve them. Do you think that that's not clear in the training that you guys take?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I don't know.
Do you have suggestions for how that might be improved or how this could have been avoided?
No, ma'am, I can't make a suggestion that would.
What do you think will be different about the way the Water District conducts its business after this case? Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
What do you think will be different about the way the Water District does its business after this situation?
Well, how we'll conduct our business after this?
Yeah, differently. How will it be different?
Well, we have to find out why those reports don't match. I mean, I think our staff has let us down.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
You've attended the training each year since 1992, or generally each year since you've been
No,
on the
sir.
board? You've attended the training each year, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You knew did you know the requirement that you needed to seek commission approval prior to
Yes, sir.
entering into loans?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with Mr. Hall, Mr. Bill, that you all get the annual report and the audit report and have an opportunity to review it before it's filed with us each year?
We didn't do a very good job of it, sir.
Well, it's a matter of degree, but you do, I just want to make sure that.
We do have a meeting and we do look at the,
Okay. And the reason I want to ask is I want to make sure Mr. Hall and Mr. Bill aren't the only two that are getting these reports. You're being given an opportunity to review these reports as well. Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure I have an appreciation for how these meetings go. If in 6 months, it's brought to you all that you all have a loan that's one of these central bank loans that's about to expire or something, or you want to refinance it, whatever it may be. And somebody, who's bringing you these loans to
Central
approve?
bank loans came from Nick Strong, who was the chairman at the time.
Okay, so the chair was in charge of working on the loans, or was it the people managing the utility that were working on the loans?
I want to say it was Nick,
The chair?
yes,
Okay. And when was Mr. Strong, is that right?
yes.
When was Mr. Strong chair? Let me ask you this way. Do you think Mr. Strong was chair in 2019?
Yes, sir.
How about 2008?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So you guys, when these loans come, and I know they all blend together. I just want to make sure I have an appreciation for the process. When these loans are they presented by staff? Are they presented by the engineer? Are they presented by somebody from the bank to the board? Who's bringing it to the board for discussion and approval?
Different loans at different times.
Okay.
If it's an RD loan, it's coming through the engineer. Nick had a relationship with Central Bank, I think, and was getting us a good loan different were done at different times.
Okay.
None of this was deliberately to hide anything from the commission.
Okay. But so when you all get the loans and you get a presentation, I assume, of some sort, like the engineer talks to you about an RD loan, the chair brings the loan and says, this is a good loan, I make a motion, that kind of thing. You all are under it sounds like up to this point, it sounds like all the commissioners were aware through training or whatever it may be that you all needed commission approval for loans. Where does that come? Where would you expect that to come up in that conversation or presentation?
I don't know where I expected it to come up.
Let me ask it this way. Are you under the impression that Mr. Smith or anybody else that represents the board can come here and initiate a filing without being directed by the board to do so?
I don't know, sir.
Well, I'm just asking, I'm not asking like legally, I'm asking if you all, let me ask you this way. When you all approved a loan, did you just assume that the attorney was going to file a case here?
I can't speak for the others, but I didn't.
Okay. So let me ask you this way. Would you have expected that if you knew that a loan needed to get approval, that after you all voted to enter into the loan, that you all would also need to direct by a vote as a board an attorney to file here at the commission for approval for the loan?
I think we know that now, sir. I don't know how we missed it.
And I guess what I'm really asking is, that was the situation then. The vice chair a second ago was asking you about the situation now. If in 6 months, going to my original question, if you all get a chair, okay, let's say Mr. Hall says, we need to refinance this loan, let's approve it. Where
We will
have you all,
apply-
well, let me ask the question. Where have you all discussed, since the initiation of this case, what your all's process is going to be to make sure that you're not violating the law?
We simply discussed that we have to make sure that we file.
And you're aware that this is a statutory requirement. This isn't a PSC regulation or a PSC order that requires this, or this is our preference. Are you aware that the requirement to get commission approval before entering into the loans has been a statutory requirement by the General Assembly for decades now?
I'm not aware of that, no, sir.
Counsel?
No questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Halls. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. I can call Mrs. Miller. She's the custodian of records. She was not employed by the Water District for the entire period that's under examination.
She is the primary respondent for.
She is.
Yeah.
Would
For
you
all the
like her
records.
to?
Do you all have, yeah, I think we have some questions about the specific filings that have been made, so if you could call her.
Sure. Kim Miller.
Morning, Ms. Miller. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right, please have a seat. And state your name and address for the record.
Kim Miller, do you want the business address?
Wherever, if we have more questions, we can send them.
802 South Main in Nicholasville, Kentucky, 40356.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Kim, what is your job title with the Jessamine-South Elkhorn Water District?
Office manager, bookkeeper.
Is part of your duty in this position is to maintain the records of the water district?
Yes.
You signed off on various requests for information tendered by the Public Service Commission. Are there any corrections or additions you wish to make at this time to those responses?
I just want to clarify that the report that they're talking about is the audit report, and the annual report is prepared by the same person. RFH, I think, is who we used this last time. So I will get with him to see why the loans are not on the annual report, but we do hire that out.
Once again, do you wish to make any changes or corrections to the responses that you
No.
gave in the request for information?
No.
Okay. But regarding the annual report, has an outside accounting firm prepared this annual report since you've been employed?
Yes, they even upload it to the system themselves.
Do you have any explanation as, idea as to why a report coming from the same accounting firm would be so different with regard to loans?
No, I guess it wasn't maybe overlooked, or I don't, without talking to them, I don't know.
I'll tender the witness.
Counsel, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Miller. Once again, if you can't hear me for any reason or if I'm unclear, please let me know.
Okay. Okay.
We were talking about audit reports and annual reports. Just going back through the records, it doesn't look like one's been filed by Jessamine-South Elkhorn for 2022. Did you guys expect that to be filed at any time?
They have questioned that, he has, we received an email, if I recall, we received an email and I'm pretty sure he has uploaded that. I've got the email to show where I emailed him and he said that he uploaded it. So I don't know if there's a problem, but I keep checking ever occasionally and I don't see it up there either.
Okay.
So that's what made me question him, I think, and he says he has.
Okay, I appreciate your answer. And you said both the annual report and the audit report, they're drafted and filed by the same contractor? Or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the board meetings and how they're ran, what's your role in those board meetings?
I prepare the financial statements and all the reporting, the office reporting, and if there's like customer problems or, the accounts receivable, accounts payable, and I sit in there and we record the meeting, and then I go back and work with the attorney and the engineer and I type the minutes.
So you don't type them during the meeting, you type them after
No.
based on a
Yeah,
video? Okay.
yes.
And are you present at all the meetings?
I think I have missed one since 2015.
Do you guys do you all store the video recordings of those meetings?
No, it's not a video, it's just a little tape recorder.
Do you store the tape recorder?
No.
So those aren't kept as
We
part of the
just keep
record?
recording over it.
I understand. When did you first hire on for your current position?
2015.
2015, thank you. And going back to the Central Bank Loan 943 and 958, those extensions, do you have any idea why those records may be missing, or if a vote would have?
I recall, the way I recall it is Central Bank kind of like just automatically does that, and maybe Nick went down there and signed it. I knew that it was happening, but, it's just kind of like an automatic thing that it's gonna renew, and they just renew it,
Oh, okay. So it's a possibility that there was no meeting about it.
possibly. I remember taking it to Nick because we received, a paper, and I remember taking it to Nick, and Nick handled it. He got it renewed, and my payments, Central Bank invoices every month, or once a quarter for one and once a month for the other one. And I pay the invoices.
I understand, thank you. Are you aware of any outstanding bonds that have been issued by Jessamine-South Elkhorn District?
No?
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Chairman. Thank you for your time.
Oh, sure.
Good morning, can you
Hi.
hear me okay?
I can.
I can put this a little closer,
I can hear
a
you.
little better, okay, thanks. I know that glass is an issue, no matter how hard we try to make ourselves heard. You're not appointed to the board, you're hired by the board, is that right?
Correct,
And you've been there since 2015.
correct.
What sort of training do you have as, it relates specifically to being a water district bookkeeper?
This water district is the first job that I've had in a water district, but throughout my career, I have been a bookkeeper, and I am certified in payroll. I'm a CPP.
Okay, so is there any additional training required once you take a job at a water district? Do you have annual training or anything like that?
No,
Okay,
not that I'm aware.
okay, so is there ever a point where you're required to look at the statute that requires us to have annual reports filed, or the statute that requires us to approve loans?
No.
Okay. So who provides the information to is it RFH?
RFH. I work together, he comes in and does an audit of our books and, pulls all anything that he asks, I make available. And then he puts, the report together, and then he does the annual report, and then he'll send it to me, and like he'll say, fill in this information, this part, like pages of it. And I think that was an honest mistake on his part. I was surprised to hear that, and I will ask him about it.
Do you think these loans were in the information you provided to him?
Well, he has access to everything. I mean, I'll send him the, the GL, the trial balance, the general ledger. At the end of the year, he gets everything.
I mean, there are monthly payments, right, coming out of those books?
Yes.
But then it just doesn't show up on the annual report.
Yeah, and that kind of surprises me. I don't know why.
And more than once, more than
Mm-hmm.
one annual report, right?
I'd say, in my opinion, it was probably just from year to year, let's change it you know what I'm saying? It's probably built from year to year to year to year, and it's probably a page that they've not ever filled out. Maybe. I don't know without looking at it. But
And I'm-
I'd say,
I'm not an accountant, but I assume if there's a mortgage loan payment
Right.
each month, that must mean there's a loan.
right. I mean, it's in the trial balance. And it's on their annual report. I mean, not the annual report, the audit.
Who is RFH?
They're a company in Lexington that does our audits.
Have you used them again this year?
I think we've used them, if I recall, 2015, we used someone different. I don't exactly have his name. And then we've used the same company ever since then.
Are they currently doing this year's?
Yes, they
Okay.
did 2022.
And so they told you they filed 2022.
They have.
But our
And
staff
I've got
can't
the
find it.
email. Uh-huh.
Are you concerned about continuing to use that group?
Well, if it can't
I know
get it
it's not
right,
your
then yes,
decision, but-
maybe. Yes, I mean, he's very thorough, I thought, but
Okay. Now, you said that you do the minutes afterward.
uh-huh,
There's a recording, but it gets erased.
right.
Do you think that could be done differently and better so that your minutes are more accurate?
I mean, we can look into saving the tapes. I mean, it'd be cassette tapes.
And again, I know it's not your decision, but you are the one who's having to do this and who's making minutes and that need to accurately reflect business that's been done. And this hearing sort of shows the reason for those minutes.
Right.
And that people will be asking for things like that. So I guess all of my questions today have been around how this water district plans to do things differently in the future, if they've talked about it. I mean, when there's 4 missed loans and at least 2 inaccurate annual reports, at some point, whether each individual incident was willful or not, there has to be a point where that's willful.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. So do you think that's been discussed? How minutes will be done differently? How information will be provided differently for financial reports?
I'm sure that after this, we will make a lot of changes probably.
No further questions.
In the annual reports, you notarize Mr. Decker's signature. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Mr. Decker, each year as superintendent, the last couple of years, a superintendent has certified that it was their that they have their duty to have supervision over the books of account of the respondent and to control the manner in which such books are kept. That he or she knows that such books have, during the period covered by the foregoing report, been kept in good faith in accordance with the accounting and other orders of the Public Service Commission of Kentucky, effective during the said period, and that they've carefully examined the report and to have the best of his or her knowledge and belief, the entries contained in the report have, so far as they relate to matters of account, been accurately taken from the said books of account and are in exact accordance therewith. I'm not going to ask you to speak for Mr. Decker. I want to know from your personal experience. Is Mr. Decker in a position, his routine job, to make that affirmation?
He is pretty hands-on with the day-to-day business, and he signs on all the checks, and so he's pretty knowledgeable, what goes on in the office.
So he would have a good idea of the income statement and the balance sheet of the utility?
Yes, he receives those every month.
Okay. And I guess more than receive, you have given your skill and experience, it's one thing to get, I mean, there are millions of people in America that are on boards and commissions that receive a monthly well, they never receive a trial balance, but receive a monthly income statement or a to-date balance sheet. But it's something different to actually know what you're looking at. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In your experience, does Mr. Decker have an appreciation for an income statement and balance sheet?
Yes.
Okay. So, the same person that does the audit report does the annual report.
Yes.
So there's not an issue with your auditor / accountant having the information. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Because they accurately portray it in the audit report.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you assist the commissioners in signing up for and paying for Water District Commissioner training?
Yes.
Okay. Do you send the check to the Public Service Commission insofar as they're doing PSC, going to the PSC trainings?
Yes.
Okay. So if we had questions about which training the individual commissioners attended, maybe in the last like 3 years or something like that, you would have that information to indicate to us which training they attended or approximately which date?
At
they
the
attended?
office, I wouldn't know it by heart, but
Oh,
at the
yeah,
office.
I would, but I'm just saying, if we, after the hearing, similar to the questions that have been asked and you've been answered in written format, give you an opportunity to review the records, would you be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And you'd be the right person to ask for that information?
Yes.
I hate to ask, you're the one that has all the, I'd hate to ask the
Right.
individual commissioners, please tell us that.
Yes.
All right. Do you know whether any of the commissioners have signed up for training this year?
I wanted to say all of them have, except for JF, I think.
Okay. And do you know, generally, is there a preference to do the PSC run training or those done by Kentucky Rural Water or?
Usually when training comes up, and I get an email, I usually get an email,
Okay.
from Kentucky Rural Water or you all, and, I usually present it at the board to say, does anybody want to attend? And they'll sign up individually or all together. I mean, it's just different.
Okay. And they just let you know and then you all send a check on their behalf?
Yes,
to-
I sign them up and send a check.
Okay. And then they let you know that they attended so that they can then be paid the additional sum for having attended the training, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had, since you've been at the district, have you had any that didn't attend the additional training?
Not since I've been there.
Okay. And how long have you been at the district?
2015.
Okay. So those two, I just want to make sure, and I suspect it's been a while. The 2019 loans, the additional extensions at Central Bank are for 5-year periods.
Right.
They were entered into in 2019. That means they likely expire some point next year. Are you aware of any meetings in which what to do when those loans expire? What the plan is?
Oh, I'm sure we'll bring them up in the meeting and we'll get PSC approval.
Well, I know, but have there been discussions up to this point that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
Usually I'll get like an email or a letter from Central Bank. If I recall, I think I did when I took it to Nick.
So let me ask this. We don't have minutes. The responses indicate there are no minutes that indicate that the central bank loans in 2019 were ever voted on. Do you specifically remember any meeting in which they were actually discussed?
I think Nick took care of it. You know, he told me, I'll take care of it. I gave him the letter and he said, I'll take care of it. And he did.
So is it your understanding that the chairman of the district actually just entered into the loans himself without getting prior board approval?
I don't know what was discussed outside of mine and his conversation.
You can't, not knowing is fine, but I'm just wondering, do you know whether that's the case?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
remember, let me ask you this way, you've missed one meeting since you've been there in 2015. Do you have any recollection of those central bank loans from 2019 being discussed prior to the commission opening?
I
this
do
case?
not. Other than me and Nick talking about it.
But no one other than the chair of the board at the time? When a loan like that is entered into and signed by somebody on behalf of the utility, whether it's the superintendent or you or the chair of the board, doesn't matter who keeps the note? Who keeps your all's copy? Who keeps the utility's copy of all these?
The loans?
Yeah, who actually keeps the physical, your all's version, the physical copy of the information?
I scan them in, to, the computer now,
Okay,
and then we've got a file.
okay. So that one would have needed to be entered into by Mr. Strong, and then after he entered into it, separately brought back to you to
Right.
then be given to you. Is that right? Okay. And then that loan, assuming it never came to the board for discussion, which we don't have minutes that it did, and you don't have any recollection that it ever came up at a meeting, when would have been the first time that board members, after that loan was entered into, that board members should have seen or could have seen the existence of those new loans?
I mean, if it wasn't brought up at the board meeting, then I wouldn't think that they'd get the document.
Well, they might not see the document, but they should see, they should know the duration of the loans, right? Like some balance sheet should indicate loan balances, right?
Right? They get that monthly.
Okay, so they should have, that's what I'm trying to ask is it the month after that they get a balance sheet and see that there's a new loan or two new loans? Is it,
Well, on the central bank loans, it didn't change like general ledger account numbers or change balances. It just continued on. So it would not have bounced back, stood out to them. Because
did
it would be,
did y'all pay financing costs on redoing the loan?
I don't think so. If,
I mean, even if you extended a loan, usually there's some sort of, even if it's a nominal few $100s,
I'd
there's
have
usually
to
a
look
cost.
to verify that, but I don't think so. Nothing got changed in the general ledger. We just kept getting invoices, monthly, quarterly, nothing changed.
And, okay, so would it show up in amortization, interest expense? Would there be anything that changes? I mean, there's a
We
loan.
get-
Go
You
ahead.
get an interest expense account, and then you have a loan account. And entries are just made,
Okay.
every month or every quarter, whenever it comes due, is when you would see it in the general ledger.
All right, so let's ask this question straightforward. If a chair of a water district, like Jessamine-South Elkhorn, goes out and on their own volition, without prior board approval, refinances, extends, whatever. Maybe, extends, let's just say, a current loan. What process is built in for the other board members to ever find out that a loan has been extended beyond its duration?
Well, the board meeting would be where it should have happened.
Well, it should have happened. I'm asking if a person, which is my characterization, goes rogue and goes and does it without the rest of the board approval. Did any of your income statements, are there details of the remaining duration of loans that you provide the board members with
The
expiration
trial
dates?
balance only has the amount due. So if somebody went rogue and I had to put it into the GL account, it would appear as an additional item in the GL account. So if they've been paying attention, they would see that there is an additional loan in there.
And you provide the general ledger or the
The
trial balance to
balance.
the commissioners? And then, if there were financing expenses, though, that would require a check from the district, is that right?
Correct.
And who would sign that check?
We have 4 people that can sign, myself, J.F. Hall, Melissa Henderson, in case that we need her in the backup, and then Richard Decker.
Okay, does it take 1 or 2 signatures to
2.
sign checks? Does it always take a board member, or can it just be any 2?
It could be any of the 4, but
Do
there
you
needs
all
to be
sign
2.
checks without prior board approval, or do you bring expenses to the board for payment each month?
There are, the lawyer H&M, and then H&M is the contractor, so it'd be the engineer, the attorney, and H&M. Those get pre-approved, but all the other bills get paid, and then they get a copy of the check register.
Okay. So well, let me ask this, if there were financing expenses, I get that it was 2019, but if there were financing expenses, do you all still have copies of those checks?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. I'd like to ask that as a post-hearing data request, I just want to make sure that
I mean, we don't get checks, it would be on the bank statement.
That'd be
We
fine.
don't actually get checks back from the bank.
Okay. Yeah, they stopped doing that.
I don't think anybody does. But I mean, if it's on their website, I could download a copy.
So if there were additional finance charges and no one paid an additional check for additional finance charges, were those potentially just rolled into the current monthly payment?
Possibly, because they invoice every month.
That
Or
monthly
once a-
payment amount didn't change?
Possibly, I'd have to look at the general ledger to see.
What about the total balance? Do you recall if that changed?
I would have to look and see.
Or the number of months that it was due? Was there a time when that changed?
I would have to look, but I'd have to look. I don't recall.
And again, I know you don't serve on the board, and this wouldn't be your call, but has there been discussion about, I don't know, asking for your money back from the people who did your audits, who didn't notice that monthly payments were going toward a loan, so that they basically created a report that was highly inaccurate that your
Well,
board then
we
found
did
out?
not know about that until today, so it has not been discussed.
I see, okay.
Well, but, let's just talk about audit for a second, though. Does the auditor not ask for minutes where loans were entered into, whether there was authorization to actually enter into the loans?
He has access to anything he asks for, he gets.
And then earlier, it was, someone referenced that the former chair, Mr. Strong, had a good relationship with Central Bank. Do you know what that relationship is?
I don't know.
And no one has said that these loans were improper for an improper purpose or outrageous amount or anything like that. But it does seem that a former chair has entered into an agreement without board approval to refinance something that is with a bank that he has a special relationship with of some kind. Do you see why that might seem like an issue
Right.
for us? Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Counsel?
No questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. Glad to call your last witness.
Yes, sir.
Blake Coleman. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
All right, please have a seat. State your name and address for the record.
Clay Corman, 2601 Wilmore Road, Nicholasville, Kentucky, 40356.
Counsel, you may ask.
Mr. Corman, are you a board member of the Jessamine-South Elkhorn Board of Commissioners?
Yes, sir.
And have you been serving as such since 2015?
Yes.
I'll tender the witness.
Counsel.
Thank you. Mr. Corman, was 2015 the first time you served on the board? Did you ever serve prior to that?
I didn't hear you.
Have you served on the board for Jessamine-South Elkhorn before 2015?
No.
Okay, thank you. I've asked this question multiple times today about central bank loans 943 and 958 and their extension in 2019. Do you have any recollection of any discussions or any meetings about that?
Not really, no.
Thank you. And when was the last time you attended any Public Service Commission approved water training? When was the last time you participated in any PSC-approved water commissioner training?
It's been about 6 months.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Buster?
No.
Thank you.
Did you know, prior to those loans, well, let me ask you this way. Did you know before we opened this case that the board had to seek commission approval prior to entering into a loan in excess of 2 years?
No.
Okay. So the trainings that you go to every year, that hasn't come up at all?
Well, I'm sure it did, but
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, what's the purpose of going to training?
good question.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going. You've been going every year.
Well, I guess to answer your question, no, that hadn't come up in my memory that was specific, that we was assured that, there had to have y'all's approval on the loan, no.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
I have no questions.
Anything else? Pleasure. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Corman.
Mr. Chairman, could I recall for one question, Mr. Hall?
That'd be fine. I was just about to ask if you'd like to recall anybody.
Thank
Please
you.
go ahead. All right, Mr. Hall, just to remind you, you're still under oath from earlier. Mr. Smith, you have questions?
Yes, I have one question, Mr. Hall. Was there any intent on your part as a member or chairman to hide the KIA loans and the central bank loans from Public Service Commission, from the Public Service Commission?
No, sir.
Are you aware of any expression from other board members that they intended to hide this information from the Public Service Commission?
No, sir.
That's all I have.
Staff, anything additional for Mr. Hall?
No, Chairman, thank you.
Pleasure.
Mr. Hall, since we have you back, have you heard things today that make you think that there are changes you need to make in the way you run your water commission?
Yes, ma'am, there's numerous changes that need to be made.
Can you tell us about some of those changes that you think you'll need to make?
Well, one of the changes I think we need to make is we need to be specific on our training that we do. We need to make sure that when we're doing these loans, or if any discussion of a loan comes up, I need to be more aware and make sure that we're getting the training we need for them, and also, that we're getting approval from everything that comes across the desk. I foresee after today that the meetings will be a little longer and there'll be a lot more questions being asked.
What about the way you provide information for and the way you approve annual reports and audits?
Yes, ma'am, we're gonna have to do better on that also, and honestly, we'll just have to sit down at our next meeting, which is in a month from now. We meet on the first Wednesday, and what we've talked about here today will be discussed a lot.
What about the way you all keep minutes?
That's the other thing. I'm sure Kim's already got a plan already to take care of the minutes being kept, that they'll be recorded.
Thank you.
You've been on the board since '06, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And been chair for a little over a year?
Yes, sir.
Have you had an opportunity, either as a commissioner or as chair, or a board member as chair, statute calls you commissioners, but as just a member or as chair, to look at the statutes related to water districts under PSC regulation?
No, sir, I hadn't.
Okay. How about just the statute dealing with water districts generally?
No, sir, I haven't that I recall.
Okay. How about the sections that deal with the regulations that deal with water utilities?
Not that I recall, sir.
Okay. So just so talk about this for a second. So there is there's a whole section called Chapter 74 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes that is just called water districts. That deals with nothing but water districts. There's whole sections on how you all should employ people, what the responsibilities of commissioners are, that you're able to create a chief executive officer of the water district. You can call them whatever you want. Manager, a superintendent, a CEO, but that they only can perform duties as the commission, that's you, as the commission may require of him or her, and shall be subject to the orders of the commission. You all direct the management, right? You all hire and direct the management. And then they shall employ all necessary labor and assistance in the performance of his or her duties, and that they shall report to the commission all expenses incurred. And then you all figure out how much to pay them. That's one of the sections of it. There's entire sections in here about how you all can earn up to $6,000 for doing the additional training, how that training should be approved by us, how to acquire new systems. Then there's entire regulations related to that you have to test your meters or replace them every 10 years. Big picture. What are you thinking about how to be aware and be in compliance with all those requirements going forward?
Well, one of the things that we're going to have to do is look at the trainings that are coming up available and maybe be more specific on what trainings we go to. And, you know, we might have to start just doing more trainings.
So, and that's a good point. I mean, not all trainings are created equal. We have to approve certain trainings.
Right.
We generally approve them. We say no sometimes because they're just not relevant to what you all do.
Right.
But the trainings we do, especially the legal and the financial stuff, we're trying to do 101 training. When do you have to seek commission approval for a loan? When do you have to seek commission approval for building something, right? A CPCN is what we call them. There's been one that we've done in the past, and I don't know if we've done it or if we've approved somebody else to do it, but it's how, as a board member, should you work with your attorney to make sure that you're in compliance with things? How do you direct your attorney? How do you direct your accountant? They work for you. What are some of the trainings that you're going to that you feel aren't necessarily, can you think of any that you've sat through for a full hour and got a credit for that you think, this is just not helpful for me in my core job, that, you know, frankly, and rightfully so, that you only do a few hours a month, right?
Well, to be honest with you, to think back, this year I didn't do it, but I typically go to Bowling Green in February, just because of the timing of the year, which maybe that's something that I need to look at and say, all right, I probably don't need to look at my schedule as much, but look at really, you know, what fits better for me as a commissioner. One of the things that we can do after this is at our next meeting, say, okay, this is what trainings are going to be coming up available. maybe I could do this one, Mr. Halls could do this one, Corman could do, I mean, you know, to kind of broaden it out where everybody's not doing the same training, and maybe they need to be doing the same training. Maybe 2 years is better than one, you know, just one person going to that training.
But how often at meetings is somebody saying, hey, can we actually do this? Is this legal? I mean, how often is that question coming up?
To be honest with you, we've got a lot of trust in our legal counsel, and that question doesn't come. I mean, I don't know if, I can't think of somebody saying, can we actually do this or not do this?
Were you aware that your all's water meters can only be in service for 10 years before they need to be replaced or tested?
I knew there was a time frame
Okay.
in there. I didn't know exactly when it was, but yeah, I know there's a time frame.
And that doesn't fall on Mr. Smith, right? I mean, that's a legal requirement, it's by regulation, but it falls on effectively your old superintendent to know that stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it's hard to hold your superintendent accountable for something. If the board thinks it's 20 years and it's 10, you've gone double over on your
Right.
on your meters before the person comes up and says, hey, well, you know, we're going to replace them. Well, you're already out of compliance for a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many years have you all been using your auditor?
Our auditor.
Let me ask it this way. Have you been using this auditor for more than 3 years?
I think so.
How about 5? Let me ask you this way. Do you remember the last auditor? Has it been that long?
Well, and I might be wrong on this, Kim. I mean, I think what we had done at one time, we had used, I remember in a meeting several years ago, we talked about going like, you would do 2 or 3 years with one and then switch and go 2 or 3 years with a different one to not stay in the same all the time.
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Yeah, that's my, have you all been doing that?
I assume so, because you're thinking back 3 years from now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be before COVID. I mean, have you all had the same auditor through COVID?
I don't think so.
Mr. Smith?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
Council, do you all need to recall any witnesses?
No, Chair.
Mr. Smith, any other witnesses you'd like to recall?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so the commissioners and commission staff will have a couple of post-hearing data requests. We'll ask those the exact same way that we've asked them in the past. We'll
Certainly.
put them in written form, and then when the post-hearing procedural schedule is entered, we'll indicate like 2 weeks to try to get responses, and if you need additional time for any of the items, you just seek leave to do so. I do ask, though, if there are particular items that you need additional time to answer, that you timely answer the ones that you can, and just seek leave to for an enlargement of time for just those ones that you need additional
I
time for.
understand.
Are you, I know that you filed the initial response earlier that was adopted by the named parties. Do you have any interest in filing a legal brief post-hearing about either the violation or the imposition of penalties under 990? We're not in a rush if that's a consideration.
I'd like to, I guess I'd like to keep my option open to do that. If given several days to think about that, I can advise the commission staff or however you want to handle it.
Let's just set the date. I'll give you plenty of time, and we'll make it optional. That should council choose to do so, it may file a post-hearing legal brief. So today is July the 6th. We'll get some post-hearing data requests out within the next week. Give you 2 weeks to answer them, so that pushes us to the end of July. How about August 31st? should you choose to file a post-hearing legal brief.
That's fine,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
And unless there's subsequent orders entered, then our post-hearing procedural schedule will set 12:01 a.m. on September 1st as the case being submitted, should you choose to file that brief on the 31st.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
No, Chairman.
Anything else, council?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much. Hearing adjourned.